Hello, everybody. This is BJ Garrett. Welcome back to our Testimony Tuesday program. Tonight, I am here with my sweet friend from Abortion Hurts, God Heals. So welcome and just introduce yourself.
Yes, thank you so much, BJ, for having me. You guys, my name is Saundra Decker. I live here in San Antonio, Texas. Isn't virtual stuff pretty cool, right? Where we can actually connect and not have to be together, although being together would be awesome. I am, again, in San Antonio. I am the founder of Abortion Hurts, God Heals Ministry. And I'm the mother of three children, two grandsons. I have a daughter at home still, and she was homeschooled for quite a long time, but now we actually send her to school as a high schooler. So my hands are a little clearer than they were before, but just happy to be able to be here to share. Not always an easy thing to talk about, some of the darkest things that we've done in our lives, but I believe absolutely necessary for people to hear my story and other stories of abortion.
I love that so much. And that's kind of where what we're trying to do. And I know that our hearts are joined in this, is that if we begin to allow these avenues for women and men to share about their abortion experiences and take some of that ugliness. I mean, abortion's ugly. We know that. The pain of abortion is real. The consequences they're real from abortion. But when we begin to allow people to share the truth of abortion and to just open that dialogue and to just give people an avenue to speak about it, to speak the truth about it, then those chains just, they just get broken and we're no longer having to hide in shame. And I know that you're very passionate about that. In fact, that's how we first met, is you had actually had me on your program, and then we connected at the March for Life this past January, which was so amazing. Are you going to go this year?
I haven't decided yet. It's been on my list of things to pray about. I just don't know where our country's going to be at that time, and the safety of our country around us. And so that was just my biggest question about it. But I would love to go if it's looking safe at that time.
Yeah, I haven't made my decision either. I mean, like, my heart definitely wants to be there, but just the travel and of course, just being there with that kind of crowd and just, I don't know. I hope that the Lord makes it possible, but we may be watching virtually or, kind of doing something on the sidelines. So, but well, Saundra, let's just dive in. And even though, I mean, I know a little bit about your story, we visited before, it's been a while. So just kind of, if you don't mind, just kind of take me back to that season of your life and
sure.
Maybe why you chose abortion and kind of how it affected you.
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to rewind a little bit prior to my abortion, because I feel like our lives prior to that choice and that decision, leading up to that, have a lot to do with why we make that decision. And for me, that was really, really relevant in my choice. So I grew up as a pageant kid. I'm sure mostly people might not even know what pageants are, because they're not really a thing these days. But I was a competitive kid. I was a baton twirler. I was a dancer. Did a lot of like Miss this and Miss that pageants pretty much every weekend of my life. And wound up as a 21-year-old, actually turned 21 years old at the Miss America pageant representing the state of West Virginia. Wow. And that was really my goal all the way through my childhood. But being in pageants, my name, was in the paper maybe weekly, maybe, a couple times a month on the successes that I had, in winning different titles and things like that. And of course, being in Miss America, I think we had 3 busloads of people from my hometown and home area, attend the Miss America pageant. And being in that position, really, when you're in a public position like that, there's a lot of scrutiny, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of pressure on, I felt like pressure on me to be the perfect person. And hold to a certain standard that I felt like I needed to be at. And so again, like that brought me to this place of being Miss West Virginia. Actually reigned for an entire year. I gave up my title at the end of the year, passed it on to the next winner, who would go to Miss America. And probably about I think it was about 4 or 5 months after I gave up my title, I had wound up in a brief relationship with a guy that I went to high school with. We had met back at our high school reunion, our 5-year class reunion, and met back up with him and dated him for a couple months. And I know this sounds really bizarre, and it absolutely was bizarre to me, but we had gotten physically close, physically close enough to have contact. And I'm going to get kind of transparent here. We did not actually have sex, but we got really, really close. And little to my knowledge, even with contact, you can become pregnant. And I remember sitting in, had missed my period and was sitting in my home, in my room where my parents live, where I grew up, and had taken a pregnancy test and saw that that was a positive test. And I was just, wow, devastated. I was a good kid. So, like, not that getting pregnant's a bad thing, but in my mind, my mom was like, don't get pregnant if you're not married. That was kind of what, she had always told me, that was a bad thing. And so I just felt like I couldn't say anything to her. I couldn't tell her or my dad. I thought that I would shame my parents. I thought that I would shame the rest of my family, my friends. And again, the pressure of being perfect came into play, and trying to hide what I thought at that time was a mistake, right? Like, I thought being pregnant was a mistake. And so I chose to have an abortion. Again, I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. And I actually had been had gotten a job with a major airline and was in training a couple weeks later. So I had an abortion on a Saturday morning in the middle of flight attendant training in a town I had never been in before. Back in phone book days where I was just looking up, where to go. And all this time just being sick, like sick to my stomach, that I had to do this. And in my mind, I listened to the enemy's voice of saying, like, you have to do this. You have to hide this mistake. There was no other way around it. And, as far as just that day, it was, I guess I could explain it like this. Like, my life as a kid was, like I said, shining star, bright shining star, always in the spotlight, always upbeat, happy. People like to be around me, and then that day I just felt like that light that I had been born with truly was extinguished. I felt like that was the darkest day, and that changed everything about me going forward. It was not an experience I remember. The actual abortion part, I don't actually remember. What I do remember is going into the clinic and walking through along the sidewalk with many people who were protesting abortion, or things have changed a lot these days. I think a lot of times sidewalk counselors aren't the same. Like, it's all done in love. But back in the 1980s, it was, you're killing your baby. And and I just remember, like, covering my ears, putting my head down, and walking in shame into the clinic. Because what they were yelling at me was truth, right? I mean, they were telling me the truth, but it was too hard to hear what that truth was as I walked in, because I didn't think there was a way to turn back.
Yeah, and the delivery, is important. How we tell somebody something. I kind of use this example as, if I shout in an angry voice that I love my husband, it's not going to come across very loving. Where in a kind voice, I'm like, oh, I love you so much. The delivery does matter. And, and I think that, yes, we've learned a lot, but those mean people are still out there today. And I think that their hearts are genuine. They really do want to share love and truth, but the delivery is really whack sometimes. And, that old saying, you get more bees with honey, is, I mean, that's real. And if you, can, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't go pray at abortion clinics or even, offer resources. I'm very pro that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're yelling things, even the truth, it is not often helpful for the woman scared to death walking into a clinic to end the life of her unborn child. So
Yeah. And again, it's just the truth. And, after that day, uh, the I just had a hard time even facing the word abortion, seeing the word abortion, hearing it, seeing it on a bumper sticker, anything that was like that was just turned off, just like I did when I walked in. I had my ears covered because the truth sometimes, it hurts and it's not fun to go there. Um, but just moving on after that day, a couple days after that, actually, I met the person that I was going to be married to within the next year. And um, he knew about my abortion because I had told him, because I was suffering a lot of consequences right off the bat. I was waking
hey,
up with, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to ask you really quick.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but what about the father of the child that you aborted? Did he know about the abortion? And obviously you're
Hmm.
not married to him, so that's not you didn't that
Yeah.
really last. So
No, that's a good.
tell me that just for a quick second.
No, great question. So I did tell him that I was pregnant. And I was getting ready to head off to go to another city, another state to go to training. And I just really, in my mind, like I had made the decision that I have to do this, like I have to have an abortion. He had told me that he was going to fly down to be with me that day. And kept ignoring my calls and kept like he wasn't around. And then I finally reached him the night before, and when he said I'm not coming, and I never really talked to him after that. He did call me. He called my roommate actually the after my abortion, and he wanted to know how I was doing and wanted to know if I would talk to him. And I was like, I don't want to talk to him. And so really that was like the last I ever um talked to him. He never really said he I don't know, like maybe I was too, this was so long ago, but I think I was so adamant about having it. I don't think I gave him the choice. I was like, this is what I'm doing. But he never told me not to. And I didn't give anyone else a chance to tell me not to, because I didn't tell anyone else other than my roommate that I was with at the time.
Yeah.
So um, all I was listening to truly was a voice inside my head saying, you can't do this. Like, you can't have a child and you can't tell anyone that you're pregnant. This is just bad. And so I was just listening to that voice. And I think that you have a spiritual people who face abortion and make that choice or don't make that choice, have that spiritual battle of, you think of it like on the devil's on one side and the angels on the other side, and one's telling you you can't do it. You aren't, able to do this. And the other side's like, don't do this, don't do this, and it's really that spiritual battle that you get into, that it's who are you listening to, whose voice are you listening to at that time.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this before we talked about empowering women, because one of the things that people who push abortion say is this is an empowering choice, and you're empowering women to live this great life, and that's what I thought. I was like, well, if I'm not going to have a baby, then I'm going to have like all this power, right? Like I'm going to be strong and I'm going to be free and all these things. But it's really just the opposite. I think
Right.
empowering women would be telling a woman to, yes, you can do this. Don't be ashamed. Like, you can have this child and empower her and help her to get on her feet and to do the right
Absolutely.
thing, and to be a mom and like say you can do this instead of you can't do that. Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and so empowering is kind of just mixed up in the whole um agenda of
Yeah.
people selling abortions to women.
Absolutely. They use these big fancy words that sound so comforting. Like, I mean, choice. That sounds so positive. Like we want to have a choice.
Hmm.
Empowering. We want to be empowered, but really they rob us of choice and rob us of being empowered as women when they really force abortion into our lives. And I mean, and we own our choice of abortion, and I don't blame anyone for my choice. I own it. I'm the one that signed on the dotted line to have the abortion twice. I've had two, as you know. But but absolutely. I mean, true empowerment means walking alongside that girl or that couple and truly empowering them to give life to their baby and to support them along that journey, which is what I am so passionate that that our ministry care does. I mean, we have
Mhm.
walked that journey time and time again when a woman has called us adamant that she's going to abort, and we're able to help her get an ultrasound and really help her to transform her idea that she can't do this, because most pregnancies are not really crisis pregnancies. They seem like a crisis in the moment, but if
Yeah.
we can help them realize and truly, as you said, empower them that they can do this, they are capable. God chose
Hmm.
them to be the parent to this child. And if we can really walk them through and support them with the things that they need and the education that they need to either parent a child or maybe gift through adoption, whatever their future looks like, then that's what empowering women looks like, not
Yes.
saying here, have an abortion. That does nothing but cause death. I mean, emotionally and spiritually and physically, obviously, for the child. So
Yeah,
that,
absolutely agree. Yeah, I didn't feel empowered when I left there at all. I felt
yeah,
empty, and I guess empty is the best word, and kind of
yeah,
just naked in my guilt and shame. And even though I didn't think of it as a baby. Um, in your
yeah,
heart.
yeah.
Because my mind couldn't go there. Couldn't like grasp that. So I just truly thought of it as an abortion and not my child.
Yeah.
But my heart knew it.
Yeah. And see, and back then in, the early 80s, that Planned Parenthood they were very smart to not acknowledge that it was a child. Now they've changed their verbiage. Now they acknowledge it's a child because science has proven that it is
Mhm.
a baby, even in the early stages. But back then it was very much told it's just a blob of tissue. It's not a baby yet. It can't feel anything. And those lies are very believable when you're in a circumstance that you really don't want to be in, such as
Yes.
being, pregnant. So,
Mhm.
okay, I'm sorry. So take us back. So now you are with the guy that you're going to be marrying in a year.
Yes. Yes.
Go back
So
to that.
he did know, like I said, of my abortion choice, and mostly because of the consequences I was already starting to have come. And I feel like they came on so quickly. Depression. Again, I was talking about the light going out. Like he had met, when we had met, I don't think I was just really even myself. I was having nightmares. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with horrible nightmares. I'd find myself on the floor in my living room,
Mm.
just crying. And I began binge eating whatever I could do, I feel like, to, I guess, just try to hide the pain of what I was feeling inside. And so when you have an abortion, like normally people don't go out and say, yo, what'd you do yesterday? I had an abortion. We don't talk about that. We
Right.
just shove it down in this really dark place and we don't tell anyone. So as we shove it down, it just sits there. And like, to me, explaining this is like a fungus. Like it just started
Yeah.
growing in my heart, in my soul, in my body. It started just kind of growing and consuming me, and choice after choice of things that were more destructive in my life. So my first husband and I got married, and we got pregnant soon after we had gotten married. And he got pregnant, and he did not want to have the baby. He was thinking, we're going to live this young married life and have a great time. And he was in the military at the time. And so there was just, it seemed like our future ahead of us. And I was not in a good place emotionally. Like I said, I would like a fog almost. My life was just like a fog, and my mind was in a fog. And I let him choose to um, take me to the clinic and abort my second child. What I don't remember really anything about that, other than coming when I was home with him. He was sitting on the edge of my bed as I was resting and waking up, and he said that we can't tell anybody about this. uh, he was in the military. He didn't want anyone to know. He probably thought his job was on the line or whatever. And so that day we shoved that down. Um, a marriage, how can a marriage survive when there's so much pain? He went on kind of, if I ever brought it up that it was hurting me, if I ever brought it up at all, it would be, this is your issue. I don't know why you're still thinking about it. And I don't know what your problem is. This is over. And it just made me more angry with him, lack respect for him, because he could walk away from it and not have any repercussions because he didn't do it. And I had to live in my shame. And that marriage lasted 10 years, but it was horrible. And I ended up leaving him after 10 years.
Yeah. Very few marriages can survive abortion. Mm-hmm. On the, just very few marriages, as you know, can survive abortion. So I can relate to that, understand that. Did you, you recognize today the darkness, that your light had gone out, and the depression and all of the, what now are consequences to your first abortion. Oh, I lost you. Are you still there? There you are.
Yeah, there I am.
The consequences to your first abortion, did you recognize those consequences as stemming from your abortion, or did you just not really know what was causing the depression and the nightmares and all?
No, that's a great question. I had no idea. The only time that I would think about it was when it was presented to me in some manner. For instance, one of the major highways here in San Antonio, on a hillside, there were these crosses, beautiful white crosses, and it was a memorial for the unborn. And so every time that I would drive by that, I couldn't look at it. And so I knew then the pain, but it was almost like the pain welled up into me about right here. And then I was like, no, and I would push it down, and then I would just keep driving. Or I would see a pro-life bumper sticker, or I would see someone's baby. That time we were in our early 20s, all of our friends were having babies and baby showers. I didn't go to one of them. When they would bring their baby over to our house, I would be like, I'm not holding the baby. And I don't know if I thought about it that necessarily when the baby came over. I just was like, I don't do babies. Like, I don't, but definitely the word abortion, or if I heard it on the radio, would bring up my guilt and my shame and make me sick, like bring me back to that time.
So obviously I know you work with post-abortive women all the time now, and you have, abortion hurts, God heals. How did you go from this broken person with failed relationships to abortions to now serving to minister to the woman who you were? Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So, God, I can't give glory to God for all of my healing, but my first turning point was my current and final husband. I say he's the last person I'm going to marry. I told him before we got married, I told him about one of my abortions, because I thought if I tell him about one and he still loves me, then we're okay. Like, we'll be okay. So I told him, and he told me about Paul in the Bible and how Paul was a killer of Christians. And if God could love and forgive and use Paul, he could absolutely love and forgive me. Now, at that time, that message was beautiful, but I didn't really grasp it or believe it. I was like, that's great that he did that for him, but he doesn't know what I did. It's kind of like we isolate ourselves in this, right? And go like, this is my thing, and nobody else has done this except for me.
We're worse than everybody else. Even if we're in a room full of women we know have all chosen abortion, ours was worse.
Yes.
We were worse because we killed our babies, and like, God can forgive you for you doing that, but I'm worse because I chose abortion.
Yes, absolutely. It's that self-condemnation. But that message was hope. I mean, even though I didn't believe it, it was definitely like I can remember it, right? And it was my first glimpse of hope. And so there were many things like that. There were a couple messages at our church. I had given my life to Christ when I married my husband, or like maybe a year before I married my current husband. And I laid everything down at the cross except for that. Held on to my abortion for a few more years until I was finally at a church service. And before church service started, there was a video of about 3 or 4 women who were sharing their abortion stories. And our pastor was talking about a post abortion healing class. And I was like, again, you're listening to 2 voices, right? One
Yeah.
voice is like, you got to go, like, you have to go. And then the other voice is like, you can't go to that. Like, you're not going to walk into that. People are going to see you and, all the things. You can't deal with that. But I knew his voice was stronger because I'd given my life to him and he was starting to speak to my heart. And so I didn't just go to the class. I crawled into the class. Okay,
Yeah.
guys, going to a post-abortion healing class is not an easy step, but absolutely necessary. Absolutely necessary. So even if you're listening to this and you're like, I would never do that, just put your shoes on, which is the hardest part, and go.
Yeah.
Because it was life-changing in the hugest way. Um,
Yeah.
Mend my heart, forgive me, like accepting what he did on the cross, what Jesus did on the cross for me, and stopping blaming myself, but really taking his love, taking what he's done for me and accepting that was so humbling and
Yeah.
so unimaginable that he would do that for
Absolutely.
me.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, we're about out of time. So, any last thing that you want to share with the woman that's watching? And I love, I mean, I wish I would have asked this before you said that because that is so key. Is, you may not think you need abortion recovery, but we're both coming to you saying we felt that way at one time too, and whatever it takes, even if it means crawling into the group that you're going to join, hopefully with either Saundra or myself or other people that offer abortion recovery. Obviously I'm pro care because that's where I work and that's my
Mhm.
ministry, but make the phone call. Just making that phone call is so hard. And so, kind of as we wrap up tonight, one last thing that you maybe want to share with the woman. This is the stage. The woman's watching. She's had an abortion. What do you have to say to her?
Well, first of all, you need to know that you're not alone, that you are not alone. And even what you're telling yourself, or even what you're hearing in your head, is that you're the only person in the world that's done this. And you should be ashamed. Whatever that voice is, you are not alone. I believe it's 1 in 4 women who are childbearing age now have had an abortion. BJ and you would be amazed at how many people have chosen. I mean, there have been over 60
Yeah.
million babies aborted since 1973 or 72. I don't remember the date when Roe v. Wade was made legal. And so just that number should open your eyes to that. But second of all, just like what we were saying a little earlier, is it if you're listening to this now, or if you hear a message, don't run away from the message of healing. Don't run away from, feel, you don't want to, don't not feeling condemned, but know that uh, you need to run to healing. You just need to run to it, because you don't want to take the rest of your life or the next 10 years and be living like you do, because Jesus has died on a cross to forgive you for your sins. Every whip on his body, every pain that he felt was part of what he did for us. And it's it's definitely just go. Don't don't hold yourself back from it, because he has hope for you, he has healing for you, and he has freedom. And the only way that you can be free is to let out what you've been holding on to for a couple days or a couple years or even 30 to 40 years. You just got to let it out and let God do his work in your heart.
I love that so much, Saundra. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. And, I just want to second everything that Saundra has said. With COVID-19, a lot of good has come. And for one thing, for us, it has forced us to think outside of the box. And used to, we would only have a group class if we had at least 3 or more women. But what we've learned is that that's not necessary. We can do it virtually. We've let a woman through in Canada through our study. We can do it one-on-one. We can do it in person or, through Zoom like this. It's very confidential, very private. And, if you are watching and you've had an abortion and you have not been through a healing class, or maybe you've been through a healing class, but you're still struggling, please give us a call or email us, reach out through our website or social media, and, stop this cycle of bondage and pain, and get the help and the hope that you need. It is real. Abortion, post-abortion syndrome is a real thing with real hurts and real damaging things to you spiritually and emotionally, and even often physically. And it's really an unnecessary hurt in today's environment where we are breaking this silence of abortion hurt. And we're here to help you. So just no matter what has been done to you, no matter what you've done to yourself, there's always hope and healing in Jesus Christ. And so yes, please give us a call. I'm going to leave in the notes or on the comment section Saundra's website. She has an amazing podcast that airs, and I don't know if you're still doing the TV program or not. We haven't talked in a while, but I want to make sure that we connect everyone that watches these videos so that they know how to connect with you as well. And so anyways, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you back here next Tuesday night. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit subscribe and maybe comment or, start a conversation. We will be glad to be in touch. God bless you all, and thank you so much.